Since I don't have the gavel here, I'll call the meeting of the Davenport Housing Commission together on this day of Monday, December 23rd at 3:30, which is different than usual.
Yeah.
So, our first, well, I guess we have to first do a roll call. Joyce Meller.
Here.
Gary Susich.
Here.
Yolanda Roberts.
Here.
And Matt Wissing, I'm here, so we have a quorum with our director and staff person, Mike. So our first order of business is to look over the minutes of the November meeting. Does anyone have any corrections or questions?
I do not.
Oh, okay. Joyce, you said you had questions, but maybe about some other items, so that's fine.
Other items.
Okay, that's fine. I just heard you say the word questions, so.
I make the motion to approve.
Great. Is there a second for
I
that?
second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes of the November meeting. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. The minutes of the November meeting have been approved. The financial reports for November. It's been a while since I looked at them, but
These are some that I've got some questions on.
okay, sure. Go ahead.
Need to know what indirect cost allegation is.
It is the price that we pay basically for all other staff members that support us. So like we have staff and accounts payable that write our checks, so we have to pay for a portion of their salaries. We have legal help, we have to pay a portion of their salaries. So we have there's a consultant that the city hires to come in and do a cost allocation amongst all departments, and this is what they've said that we are responsible for.
Okay, because I noticed for November, each one had an amount, which was the same amount as September's, and October, there was nothing. So I take it not every month do these people have to come in to do any work then, or?
No, we get charged every month, but the financials probably weren't completed when
Okay.
we voted on them in October, because we've had that discussion before. If our meetings are too
Okay.
early in the month, not everything is posted. So we get charged the same amount every month, it's just that particular month, the complete financials probably weren't done.
Okay.
But you
all right.
guys vote on what's in front of you, so.
Other question is, for section 8, there's port in rent. That is,
Oh.
So port in is what we pay for our ports. So, housing authorities
And
will.
explain to her what a port is.
Yeah.
How-
That, I mean, it's one of those terms that.
What is
Yeah.
that?
So housing authorities will bill us for vouchers, and we will bill other housing authorities for vouchers if either one of us can't bring in new vouchers because of, for financial reasons. So we can't deny somebody moving here from another jurisdiction, so we would bill that housing authority if we don't have the money to support it, and vice
Okay.
versa.
okay.
So this port, so like for this month, we're only paying out $585. This is one person. We've actually absorbed everybody that we were billing for because we have the finances to do so. But this one person that we have left here, this $585, is a VASH person, and the housing.
Explain what VASH is.
Yeah, what is that?
That's the veterans that are chronically
Right.
homeless.
Okay.
It's a separate program on our
Okay.
Section 8 program. So this particular person is under the VASH, and the housing authority can't absorb them because they don't have any extra vouchers. So we had enough vouchers for the VASH participant, but so we continue to pay for his voucher
Okay,
until they're able to absorb him.
okay. Last question then. It says for professional services. For, in section 8, it says November is nothing. The year to date says 1627. And last month, it had 1659, and year to date was 1627. Was that an oops that it didn't catch the next amount?
I would have to check for sure, but we do occasionally make errors and they will transfer the money between programs. So the professional services line is for the people that get put up for termination. So we have to pay the administrative law
Okay.
judge. That's what that professional line item is for. As far as this particular amount, I will have to check on that. It could have been an error, or it could have been, so we have 3 different programs, obviously, and we put people up for termination across all 3 programs. We could have charged it to Section 8 when it wasn't supposed to be charged to Section 8, and then we've made the correction. I don't know for sure if that's the issue, but I will check on it and let you guys know.
Okay, all right. That's all I had.
I'll just add to tell Joyce, and I'm not sure if you were aware, up until, I'm not sure how long ago, we, the commission, made the decisions on evictions. But there was a new interpretation of a city code that apparently we weren't obeying. I don't think it was because of a complaint. So we didn't have an outside person listen. I mean, we, us commissioners, sat here and listened, on both sides, both the defendant and the staff who was. And so that's the reason we have to pay those fees now.
Okay,
So-
all right.
And we had a lot of heated and sometimes teary-eyed arguments in this room right here, as Yolanda could tell you. And, you don't like to have to do that, but
It's just that kind of like a fine line where you had to have the legal part of
especially
it.
this time
Yeah.
of year when somebody was being evicted and had children and but we had if there was a compelling case against them, we had to make that decision. And
Okay, all right.
it wasn't easy, but that's where those numbers come from.
Okay.
So they have an outside attorney who's comes and comes and listens and makes the decision back to the city about her. I think it's still a her. Her decision. So.
Well, did they come before this commission on those meetings, or is it something now that you have special meetings for these?
Yeah, it's just for termination hearings.
And you might, and maybe you could let Joyce know or Gary know. And I don't know if Yolanda's been on. I went to a couple of them just to hear it, to see how it worked. And
Yeah, we present our case, and then the tenant presents their case, and the administrative law judge makes her decision and gives
That's the
it
word I
within 2
was
weeks.
thinking.
We have a decision from her, so. Yeah, it was city code that we had to do it that way.
so
Mhm.
maybe you could let Joyce and Gary or Yolanda or me know. Not that I'm available all that often, but you might like
To come and watch one?
Yeah, to come and
Yeah,
watch one.
I can let you know.
I mean, I asked for them when they first started, just to see how it worked. So if you're ever available there,
Mhm.
it'd be
Oh, yeah.
it's kind of neat to,
Check the process.
yes. And I don't know, do they still have them in city council chambers, or are they moving them?
We did have them in council chambers until this month, and then we had it here.
Oh,
We
okay.
usually,
Because of
maybe
the-
about once a month or so. we
Because of
probably
the
have 'em.
Here,
technology.
We usually
change.
had them in council
Yeah.
chambers, but because of
the
the,
audio system.
yeah, now this month we had it here,
Okay, all right.
but usually it would be in council chambers.
While we're talking about that, have you had one or more, how's the numbers on that?
As far as how many termination hearings,
Mhm.
we had 2 this month.
Have you
Every month.
received the decision? Yeah, I know it's
Yeah,
due.
yeah, we just received the decisions today. We should terminated both of them.
Both, okay. Okay, are there any other questions on the financial reports for November? Hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the financial reports for November.
I move that we approve the financials for November.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the financial reports for the month of November. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Hearing none, that passes. Now we'll move on to the occupancy report.
So for public housing, we just have one vacancy at this time.
Oh, that's good.
Tenant that was terminated, and for Heritage, we have 7 vacancies at this time. Just had a tenant pass away a couple days ago.
Ooh.
So we probably have 8 right now, but we have our new contractor working on rehabs, and Kelly's got a list of people to put in as soon as we have units available, so just a matter of working through the process. And then Section 8, our number, you can see, went much higher. That's where I talk about the ports. We were pulling from our waiting list, which we've been pulling from our waiting list this whole time, but it was getting to the point of where we weren't using all the funds that we needed to, or the voucher numbers that we needed to. So we absorbed all of our ports except for that one VASH. So that's why, well, that's a big portion of this number, that going from 648 to 695. But we were pulling from our waiting list as well, which has also helped with this number. So we're sitting at in a good position right now with our numbers, and we're just kind of monitoring how many people we lose a month and how many we need to pull from our waiting list. But it's not a big crunch as it was a couple months ago. So we're pretty comfortable where we're at right now with our Section 8 numbers.
I have a question about Section 8, and I think I asked this kind of quick-handed one time about one of the providers called Easy Street Lending, and the reason I asked it is they bought a couple properties in my neighborhood recently, and then since last month's meeting, there was I think both a article and a news thing about some, or at least one bad property that they owned.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wondered, do you ever, and not just with them, but do you ever have to pull people from properties that are not
Yes.
maintained by
Yep, we've gone through this with another landlord just last year, JP Reynolds, and actually we're borderline of doing that with Easy Street right now.
Oh,
We've had multiple issues with Easy
yeah,
Street.
okay, yeah,
I had
actually-
one of their properties I
Yeah, Mike could probably-
just flagged as ineligible, which you can do in Housing Pro. I've got a tenant living there right now, and I'll be moving her out by the end of March, because the electrical is a mess there, and it trips breakers. They've had people out, they can't fix it. It's an old house. Used to be a triplex, so she gets 3 gas bills and 3 electric bills, even though it's a
Ouch.
single family home now.
right,
So I said, and she wants to move. I said, let's just move you out of there. And people aren't always receptive to moving, because you got to remember, we're dealing with low-income people, and moving is a real burden for those folks.
it's a
Yeah.
burden for
Everybody,
everybody.
You come
yeah.
up with deposits and new rents, so, but that particular property, which is in fact managed by Easy Street, they own some of them, but a lot of the properties they don't own, they just
Oh, they-
manage them for
Okay,
other
I didn't
people.
realize that.
But
Where's
that,
this located?
it is on 511 West 15th, I think it is. It's one of those big old houses there, but,
Yeah.
yeah. That Easy Street sometimes will do cosmetic changes to places, but the underlying issues are still there, is what we're finding.
Huh, okay, well, that's, so sad it wasn't them particularly. I was just wondering,
Yeah.
since that name popped up, and I've seen their trucks in my neighborhood recently.
Yeah, we all saw the news story on Channel
Oh,
8
Yeah.
too.
okay, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
When's that coming out?
It was last week.
Oh, was
Yeah, it was on Channel
Yeah,
8.
sorry, probably should have. There's, for
Yeah,
people
if you
that
look
are.
on WQAD, Easy Street. Yeah.
Better tech than I am, I should could have sent it out to people, but.
make a motion to pass the occupancy report.
I'll second that.
Okay, there's been a motion to approve the occupancy and utilization report. All those, any other questions? If not, I'll ask those in favor, vote aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, now we're on to our discussion.
So we've got a few
That's
items
fine.
of discussion. I'll let Mike go first, so he can leave if he would like. And he was gonna present to you guys some information on our payment standard that you guys
Yes,
had asked
that's why
for.
Mhm.
I asked for.
Yeah. That's been a little bit of a point of contention for us down there at the office. Our new payment standards came out in October. They actually went down, the payment standards we got from HUD, which we couldn't understand. You know, we deal with rents every single day.
Sure.
And rents have not went down in Davenport at all. So the payment standard, we were using 100% of fair market rent. We went to 105 with the current schedule they gave us, which kind of
What's the
minimized.
amount again, Mike?
We're using 105% of fair market rent.
Okay.
But that's still less than 100% fair market rent was last year that we're using. For example, our 2-bedroom payment standard now is $817 a month. That's for rent and utilities, and it was $830 last year. The 1-bedroom went down only $2. But where that comes into play, and I think it's low, and I think the thing we've discussed down there is I think we could make a case for making it the 120 or the 110%, which would move a 1-bedroom to $677, a 2-bedroom to $856, a 3-bedroom to $1131. It would be helpful because what happens when it's complicated to explain how HUD figures all this out, but someone is expected to pay 30% of their income towards rent utilities. So let's say someone, for easy calculation, is making $1,000 a month, they would pay $300 a month towards their rent utilities. So if we estimate, you know, we do surveys on what an average utility cost is for a certain type of unit. Let's say it's $100. We assume they pay that. You subtract that from that $300 that they're expected to pay, and now they would pay $200 towards their rent, and that would be their total contribution of $300. Now, a HUD will only assist people up to the payment standard. So anything over right now, $646 for a 1-bedroom in rent and utilities, they have to pay all of that, in addition to their 30%. So, you know, you're asking someone, a lot of our clients make $771 a month on SSI. You know, if you're asking them, they go with that payment standard by $50, they're paying an additional $50, which to a lot of people may not seem like a lot of money. But to somebody living on $771 a month, that's a lot of money. And it's difficult to find units. I had several clients. I've got one that lives up at Jersey Meadows. She's over the payment standard by $30. I've got one living in a house. I just put in a house that Easy Street owns. And she is over $119 a month over the payment standard. Now, she has enough income where she can
Compensate.
She can, because HUD won't let us put somebody in a unit where they're paying 40% or more of their income. So once you go over that payment standard, you're paying every dollar that gets you up to 40% pretty fast. And she barely stayed under it, but that's another additional $119. She's at about 38, 39% of her income towards rent and utilities in that house. So it makes it difficult, and so we know what a lot of the rents are, but like this is Jersey Meadows. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that. It's not anything fancy, but it's a nice, decent apartment complex, which any person deserves to
Sure.
live in. A 1-bedroom standard there is $655. It's $645 for the smaller second floor one. A lot of our people, elderly, disabled, can't go up to second floor.
Sure.
Our payment standard is $646. So as you can see with the rent, they're already over the payment standard. We haven't even figured in the utilities yet. And that's just Jersey Meadows. Cross Creek, which is a huge complex up at 5901 Elmore Avenue. It's a tax credit unit. It was built for low to moderate income people to give them good housing, and they're nice apartments. Again, they're not luxury apartments. They're just nice apartments, decent apartments. A 1-bedroom is $635 there, and then with the cost of your utilities, that unit of 1-bedroom will cost you $714. And our
Can
payments.
you repeat those last figures?
Yeah, $635 for rent. We estimate utility costs at $79 a month for a 1-bedroom there, $714 a month. Our payment standard is $646. So anyone that would move in there, they are going to pay, and if someone they have very little income, let's say it's a single mom, just had a baby, she's got a couple kids, is struggling by just on FIP right now, she couldn't even move in there because it would be over 40% of her income. Same thing with a 2-bedroom, the total cost is $891, and again, our payment standard is $817. So where we run into some issues of we'll have people come to us with the request for tenancy approval, I want to move in here, and I tell them you can't move in there, it's too expensive, HUD won't let us put you in that unit. And then when you get to larger units, there's not a lot of 3-bedroom apartments, there's virtually no 4 bedrooms in town. But
There's a big call for that.
there is.
I mean, a big demand.
But it's almost impossible for a Section 8 person to move into a 2-bedroom duplex, say, because your payment standard is $817. You're gonna pay at least $850 for one. And by the same when you rent a duplex or a house,
Mhm.
you're not gonna just pay gas and electric like you do with apartments. They're gonna also make you pay water and sewer. So if you rent a 3-bedroom house, this client of mine rented one, her 3-bedroom house utility costs are $223 a month for that. That's why she's so far over the payment standard. I don't think the payment standards were accurate. I guess there's nothing we can do about it other than go up to the 110% and try and mitigate the damage of them going down did to us. There are places we can get people into, but the problem is a lot of that is barely sufficient or somewhat substandard in nature. We have a lot of that housing in Davenport.
Probably too much.
Yeah, I mean, it'll pass our inspections, which are basic, making
Right.
sure everything works as they're supposed to. But there's a lot of housing that, I don't think any of us would want to have to live in,
Yeah.
And the problem when we remove places like Jersey Meadows and Cross Creek was set up, like I said, for people of low and moderate income. When you there's 342 units out there. When you take all those units out, now our housing stock is shrunk down even more. People are battling for those units, and a lot of them we don't want to put people in, But people have to live somewhere, so.
Destiny, I asked you this, and I was trying to find it on my email, and you answered. When was the last time HUD, I'm sorry.
No, it's okay, because we were talking about this in the office today too, and I didn't look up the email before I came here, but,
You know which email I'm talking about?
yeah, and I wanna say it was from like 2015, I mean,
You
they
said
were
something like that.
using numbers
4 and
from-
5-year-old numbers.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
were using numbers from long ago.
And these aren't, like I said.
When did we make that decision?
It would have probably been in October possibly, cause September maybe, our payment standards came out, or October 1st.
October is when those changed, yes.
It was on the meeting agenda in September to go to and that's when you guys decided to go to 105.
Yeah.
Okay.
And you can look around.
Yeah, okay, there it was. Yeah.
Did you find it?
Yeah, they were using data calculation between 2013 and 17.
6 years ago. I don't know why they would factor in data that old.
Yeah, and I didn't know that at the time.
Right.
If you think of all the housing stock in Davenport, I mean, how many one-bedroom apartments are there now downtown here and stuff that rent for $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Are they not figuring those in? Those should be figured into the calculation, but, you know, we can't control what HUD does, but I said, I think, you know, at least raising it to 110 would help us get more people into more decent units.
And then, Mike, maybe you can explain this too for people. When people apply, they don't get money from your department, affordable housing, for down payments or deposit, or even application fees,
No.
which I don't know how much those can, I
Well,
understand they can be,
Usually at least $35.
since I haven't
depending
been on the market
And,
for.
and most landlords use those because they have costs. If they're doing things properly as they're supposed to, as registered landlords, you're supposed to run background checks on people and all of that stuff, which costs them money, so, you know, they wanna recoup that money. But deposits, no. We do have a program we use occasionally for people that are disabled, where we can sometimes get funds from, an entity up in Cedar Rapids that helps them out. You know, it's not us, we just give them the paperwork and then it's between them,
Oh,
that
okay.
agency and their landlord, but, you know, that doesn't usually come into play, and they don't always have funds. So,
I didn't bring anything for you guys to, decide or anything. I just wanted Mike to present the information, and if you guys have questions or comments or anything that he can answer for you, since he does this work day to day and works with the people.
Right, that's
You
why
know, we
I asked
can-
to have I know you kind of become into you're not, I mean, you work there every day.
Right,
but
right,
you're
yeah,
not
I don't
on-
work
You're not on the
one-on-one.
front line
Right.
like you used to be.
Yeah.
So I thought that would be good to get someone to explain that to us. And I don't know if that's another discussion, but I was gonna ask you about those HUD, that report that we just received recently.
The subsidy for the heritage.
I think that's what it
Yeah,
was.
that's a separate topic.
That's a okay,
Yep.
that's fine.
Well, I appreciate you coming down to speak to us and enlightening
Yeah,
us
sure.
on exactly the numbers and how it affects, people that are utilizing this program. Coupled with the information that Destiny looked into, that I requested, when's the last time HUD, what numbers they were using and stuff like that. So, and from my perspective, I think, maybe we should talk about raising it to, the suggested, the increase.
110%.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're at 105, and HUD allows us to go up to 110 is our maximum, so
Oh,
that's what we would
and
recommend.
then with that, I mean, I know we'd be paying the commission or the city
Mhm.
their money, HUD. Bottom line, taxpayers
Yeah.
Right.
would be paying out more, but would that leave less? I mean, we want people to be served, but would that be less? What would that dollar
Well, we
difference?
have a certain amount of money that we can spend each year.
Correct.
And, through our different formulas and everything, and, using different payment standards and stuff, that's how we use that money. So we're already at the bare bones of doing 2 heartbeats per room, and that's how we were able to put more people
Right.
on the program. This is just a way to help those that we are already serving find affordable, decent housing.
And that was a big, maybe you can explain that to Joyce and Gary, they weren't here when we had a very heated and passionate discussion.
I don't think it was heated.
Well, I mean, but it was kind of,
It was,
maybe that's the wrong adjective, but it was kind of an emotional thing we talked about.
Yeah.
Couple-
so it used to
couple
be-
years back.
Yeah,
The
absolutely.
bedroom sizes used to be determined based on age and sex of household members. In order to help more people on the program, we went to 2 heartbeats per room. So the amount of bedroom size basically decreased for most people. Because they might have been in a 4-bedroom in the past and now they're in a 3-bed, it just, because we're doing, if it's a family of 3, and say you have mom, a 10-year-old, and a 18-year-old, you know, before you might have had a 3-bedroom unit for those, but now since it's 2 heartbeats per room, you only have a 2-bedroom. So that was a decision that we made back in what? I keep wanting to say 2000. Was it 16?
2016.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so far,
Okay.
we're the only housing authority I've come across that does that. When we receive ports, their housing authority will send us their voucher and shows what bedroom payment standard they're on. And I would say 50-60% of the time, I have to let them know that they're going to have a decreased payment standard if they come to Davenport.
So we don't have to abide by the,
No,
what
we
they
had
received previous?
Each housing authority has its own
Okay, I wasn't
rules
positive of
regarding that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, in the financial position that we are in right now, I mean, we're not in a financial position, I shouldn't say that, but it's hard to go back to doing
Right.
something like that because then it's gonna cost us more money. So and this is another thing with, they can go over 1-bedroom size if they can find it affordable. So not that this will help out tremendously on that aspect, but it may help a little bit if they only have a 2-bedroom voucher and can find a 3-bedroom in that payment standard, they could potentially get a 3-bedroom unit instead of a 2-bedroom. We do allow that. So, I mean, but our reason for bringing this up is more for them to find decent, suitable housing, not so much for them to be able to get an extra bedroom by any means, just to increase what's available to them to find housing.
Now, when you say like, you know, so how many heartbeats per room, okay. There's a mother, and say maybe there is a 16-year-old girl and a 14-year-old boy. You don't want those
2 bedrooms.
2 bedrooms?
2 bedrooms, and we don't tell them how to divide their living situations, their sleeping arrangements. If they need to use the living room as a bedroom, they're welcome to do that.
Okay.
We don't tell them how to divide up who sleeps where. We just tell them that's
That's
what
the
they
rules.
that's
Yeah.
what they are given as a 2-bedroom voucher.
There are some places in town you could find a 3 that would not put someone up to that 40% of income at that low
Mhm.
income. They're not always the greatest places that you want to put families sometimes, you know. A lot of older housing stock that, you know, converted houses, which are the bane of our existence down there, quite frankly. Those old converted houses.
Mhm.
There's always problems with them. But, so if they can do that, that's fine. We don't really, it's not really necessarily a bedroom standard. You could just call it a payment standard. If you have these many people, if you have 3 people in your house, you have an $817 payment standard. So
What is the standard for a 4-bedroom?
when it's let's see, 1,227. But now 4-bedroom, you're never gonna find a 4-bedroom apartment in Davenport. So you're gonna have to rent a house.
Yeah.
And your average 4-bedroom house, even an old house in this town, is going to rent for $1,100 or $1,200 a month. Plus your utility costs will be about $280, and the payment standard is $1,227. So you're always going to exceed it on a 4-bedroom, unless, you know, it's really bad. Yeah. And then people get desperate and they don't want you to fail the inspection. I mean, we do if it's something egregious, of course, you know. Our standards for the inspections are basic, just make sure everything works in there. But it can be old or worn or, you know, that's not a failure. It just, everything has to work as intended.
I know I ask this question periodically. Are we getting enough landlords to participate in Section 8?
I mean, we would always like to see more, but I wouldn't say that we're turning people away, and you might
And
be able
maybe I
to
should
say
say
more.
good land, you know.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think sometimes we're not even aware of how many landlords don't use the program because we don't ever deal with them.
Uh-huh.
You know, but there's a lot of places in town that don't, you know, I mean, there's a lot of places in town that don't. I mean, I've never put anyone at, but then again, you know, they would be too expensive, a lot of them probably. You know, like Kimberly Club, I think my son has someone who lives there and it's $675 for 1 bedroom, so never be able to put anyone in there. You know, Crystal Ridge doesn't take Section 8, I know, which is up there on 5600 Jersey Ridge, you don't. Indian Ridge
Winding Hills.
doesn't take, Winding Hills doesn't take it. You know, Oak Valley, we put a lot of people in there
Where's that?
by Doll Ford.
Oh,
Okay, okay.
Though,
38
and those
to
just come
39.
in under the payment standard, but I would call those units like the bare minimum you wanna house somebody. They don't do a great job up there. And oddly enough, the same company owns that as owns Jersey Meadows, which are pretty nice. So I don't understand why there's the difference, but, yeah.
okay. Any other questions of Mike while we have him here? Thanks a lot for coming in and
Sure.
kind of
Yeah,
humanizing things instead of
Yeah.
just looking at
Yeah.
numbers on a page.
Yeah, all the numbers affect people, you know.
Sure.
Yeah.
And
you
you
know,
deal
our
with
goal
them day
down
by
there
day.
is
Sure.
to give, you know, our clients the same dignity and respect in housing as everyone else receives.
Of course.
So we hope we can continue to do that.
Okay.
Need
Well,
anything
thanks
else?
a lot for
Okay,
coming
thanks.
in.
Thank you.
Thanks for your
Mike,
time.
didn't you used to work with DPD?
I worked here for 7 years.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I used to approve.
Luckily, you never gave me a ticket.
No.
I
Knock
think I
on
was
wood.
just one of the
Have a Merry
machines
Christmas.
that did it once.
All right, have a good one.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Bye,
thank
Mike.
you.
So the other topic that Matt had called me on was we received an increase for our subsidy at the Heritage. On April 1st of every year, we qualify for just a natural, basic, you could call it maybe a cost of living increase or something. It's not a cost of living, I'm not sure. It's just to keep up with the market rate going forward. So we just received that, so it doesn't affect anybody's rent unless they're paying full subsidy, which I do believe we have one person right now paying full rent at the Heritage. So beginning April 1st, our payment standards now, our 1 bedroom will rent for $739, and our 2 bedroom is $898. And I know we mentioned this before
There's
because
only a couple of 2 bedrooms.
we have two bedrooms.
Right.
Yep. We mentioned this before because our own Heritage doesn't qualify in our payment standards for Section 8, which is odd, but it wouldn't qualify if it was a Section 8 rental unit because the rents are too high. But this, like I said, will affect one person right now that I know of that's paying full rent. Otherwise, their rent is based on their income, so their income's not changing. It's just the subsidy, our subsidy that we receive for the Heritage is going to increase, but their rent will not increase except for the one person.
Do you have people who aren't either on Social Security or SSI? I mean,
No, they have to
Oh, they
be
do.
disabled.
Is that one of the-
They have to be disabled, elderly, or handicapped to live at the Heritage.
Oh, that's, okay, you're,
So yeah, so everybody.
I know that's a
receives Social
criteria
Security.
for being there. Yeah, that's right.
Yep. So, I don't know if you guys have any questions on that. Right now, our 1 bedroom is $722, so it's going up to $739. Our 2 bedroom is $877, and it's going to $898. So we'll just get a few more dollars a month in subsidy for the
What'd you say the
Heritage.
2 bedroom is now?
877.
77,
And it's
okay.
going to $898. And that's the Heritage.
And do the people all know?
Not yet, because it's not
Oh.
till April 1st, so we haven't notified them yet. We have to give them 30-day
And how
notice.
do you
We'll do
do
that in
that?
February. And
You
they have
send
to
them a
sign a
letter?
new, yeah.
Or
they have
when
to
their new lease is up?
No,
Or
no,
when
because
they're-
this is for April, this goes into effect April 1st, and we have to give them 30-day notice, so we'll notify them in February. And there's a form that they have to all sign.
Okay,
So, I mean, it doesn't affect their rent at all, it's just that they're being notified that we'll be receiving more subsidy. Except for the one person.
okay.
We do have one person that's, once they're in you have to qualify based on your income when you first move there, but then once you're in the Heritage, if your income increases, you can stay there and pay full subsidy. And that's what, we have one person that pays full subsidy.
Okay. I have another question, and maybe it's another, I know now that we're at the end of the calendar year, but fiscal year for the city, they start doing budget hearings, and Joyce, you follow stuff more than I do. They have budget hearings it's usually in the winter. If you ever been to any of those?
No, but it'll start, the first or second Saturday of January is when they start.
It's usually cold, but they have coffee and donuts.
Saturday mornings.
I've gone a couple. Right, I've gone a couple times, but
Continental breakfast.
I've always missed the one when they do the CBD or
The
your
community- yeah,
our
CDBG.
yeah,
Yeah,
department.
I've never gone.
For some reason are you hearing anything on if things are going to be status quo?
So I had
or-
another discussion topic for you guys, and that
Oh,
is.
didn't mean to.
Nope, that's okay. It's flowing right into it. It's no
Okay.
problem. HUD is coming here on January 14th to discuss with city staff, hopefully council, on repositioning our public housing in the heritage. So they are looking at the
What
possibility.
does that mean, repositioning?
Can mean a number of things. Can mean giving people vouchers to move. It can mean selling them. It can
Selling vouchers?
No, selling public housing and
Oh.
heritage. It can mean, different funding sources.
Is that a push by HUD? Do you, are they-
HUD is pushing for public housing to be repositioned. They are, because we are a small public housing, we only have 42 scattered units for public housing. That's considered small for HUD. So they have
I mean,
reached
for
out.
our size community?
No, for the size altogether for HUD in general for public housing. For other housing authorities, under 50 units is small. Actually, under 250 units is small for HUD standards, and we only have 42 units. So HUD made the initial push for us to reposition our public housing units, and the city is looking at is looking to do something different with the heritage as well. So HUD is coming on January 14th for kind of a Q&A session between city staff and HUD to determine what the best route is to go forward financially.
Is that an open meeting for the public, or?
I don't know at this time. I don't believe it's not for the public by any means, but as far as if you guys wanted to come, that's a little bit different. But it's not open to the public at this time. It's just more of what are our options, what's the availability through HUD to do.
So will that be with, like, Bruce Berger? and-
Yeah, our finance,
And Brandon,
and
money
hopefully our
people.
council, cause our council has been notified of it as well. Our council was already met with our finance team, to say they were interested in looking into options. And so now council is on board with it, so now they're going forward to meet with HUD to see what the options are.
When you mentioned council, have they given you any word? We were supposed to have a meeting
I
with,
haven't, yeah,
I figured they were gonna wait till the new council.
right.
That was my guess, cause we were
Right.
bumping right up by the election time, and
Right.
there are some new people.
I wonder who we can check with, like you said, that maybe it's not open for the public, but since we're on the housing
I can find
commission.
out, yeah. I set up the meeting,
I've
so I
got
mean, I just have,
Bruce's email,
I mean,
so-
my own staff hasn't even been invited to it yet. It's just been between the council and, I mean, because
And HUD.
our decision, it's not up to my staff, it's gonna be up to city administration and council to determine what goes forward. And then I don't know if then eventually if it would come to you guys for a vote, or, if they determine what they're gonna do. I honestly don't know at this point, how that is all handled. But I just wanted to let you guys know, be aware of it, and I will find out if, the meeting would be open to you guys to attend. I'll let you guys know about it. But at this time, like I said, I've had my own staff ask if they're invited, and I don't know the answer to that.
Well, my opinion is they should, let people know how things,
Yeah.
Yeah,
how things may change, or
Well, and.
what you guys
Well,
with boots on the ground would know.
Once the council makes that determination of what they're looking at, that would be fine. But at this time, they're basically just trying to get a better understanding of what is available.
Well, that's
for
what I
them to
mean,
do.
instead of just looking at numbers on a piece of paper, I think it's good to talk to people who deal with. Deal with.
Being affected by it.
Right. Well, our heritage building is 40 years old, and we're starting to see some maintenance issues with it, and our public housing units.
Makes me
with-
feel old when I hear things.
When our public housing units are
Becoming-
scattered sites, it is more of a cost burden for the city than having them in one location. So I just wanted to alert you guys on that, and I'll find out for sure who's all going to be invited to those meetings. So as far as finances, that's, when you mentioned finances, I haven't heard any changes other than that as far as our budgeting.
Okay.
Nothing, no major changes I'm aware of.
Okay. Gotcha. And you had something else you wanted to, another item you wanted on discussion?
I don't think so.
Oh,
Mm-mm,
okay.
just 3.
We segued into.
Yes,
okay.
yes. I had 3
My
topics.
question, I guess, was ahead
Yes,
of you.
yours.
You just opened the door a little more.
Yeah, yours prompted my next one, so that's
Oh,
all I have for
okay.
discussion.
Does
unless you guys-
anybody else have any
Nope.
questions? Or?
Yeah.
I do not.
Would you
Okay.
guys like me to draft a payment standard, or you guys wanna discuss, I don't know how you guys want to look at the payment standard. Do you wanna discuss it next month? I can bring a,
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, you guys can think it over
Yeah.
and.
yeah, take a look
Okay.
at that.
And what's our meeting for next year? Our first
I have not looked.
January.
And I would
Month's got
assume we're
very
going to
big.
be back in council chambers, but I have not received notification for sure. The 3rd Monday is Martin Luther King Day. I'm not sure if that's a holiday. Is that a
That's-
holiday of ours? I'm
Yes,
asking
I
you
think
guys.
it is for the city.
Do
Because
you know?
we bumped up against that before.
What's that?
Martin Luther King, is that a holiday for us?
Yes.
National.
I
Okay.
believe it is.
National.
So we're gonna have to look at another day cause that's the 3rd Monday.
Right.
And nobody
So
would-
I will have to get back to you guys, cause I'm gonna
That's
have to look at
happened
the
before.
calendar and see what's available. Okay. Well, I will get back to you guys on a January date.
Yes, just let us know about that. Okay, if that's all there is, I'll ask for a motion for our meeting to be adjourned.
I make a motion to adjourn
Second that.
December's meeting.
Been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It's a non-debated motion, so we're adjourned till next year, unless something, hopefully, nothing dramatic happens in between that we have to meet in emergency.
Well, 'cause then everybody's off until the first year.